Hey, everybody, welcome to Let's Get Real. And Nicole Bonner and myself, Patty Giuliano, we get real with you every podcast that we do, and maybe too real sometimes. Um, this morning I was getting real with my daughter, and she was upset because why didn't I ever let her work in the practice? If she worked in the practice, she would learn executive functioning skills and her life would be better. And now there's no reason for her to live. And um, so it's not like, I mean, she was being dramatic. So don't take it seriously, people. Um, but we got to the point where I said to her, Katie, I don't know if you know this, but I am a person. I am a person that is not perfect. I am a person that has failed at things. I have paid for things that are sitting on my shelf, paid for books that I haven't read, paid for seminars that I haven't done. And I just bought a house that I don't need. So she was worried because gave away a lot of her money to a service that they never really, provide. It was kind of a scam. And
Uh-huh.
so I think that it's so important for us to get real like that, because all of a sudden she shifted from yelling at me to, "Oh my God, mom, like you're a normal person like me." And I mean, I just thought it was assumed. I thought she realized that. But I think the same thing is for our patients, Nicole, that it's so important for us to get real with our patients. And in
Mhm.
order to do that, we have to get real with ourselves and get real with
Right.
ourselves that, life isn't perfect.
Mhm.
If you're in practice and listening to this, practice isn't perfect. You practice to be more perfect, but practice
Mhm.
is never perfect, and life isn't perfect. And all of those imperfections, for me, turn out to be blessings. And that's if you choose to want them to be, you could perseverate over them like my
Mhm.
daughter has been doing all these years. You never let me work in the office. I would have learned. And, da, da, da. And
Mhm.
you know what? We have to take responsibility for ourselves and for our
Mhm.
imperfections and be kind and compassionate to ourselves, because life, it can be a shit show, you know? And you just take another bite and another bite, but that there is there is, like they say, the light at the end of the tunnel, but there is promise, and there is learning, and there is evolution of our abilities. Our abilities get improved with every piece of crap that comes our way that we have to learn through and push through.
Right.
And so that's been the story of my life. And so I shared that with my daughter this morning, and she had more compassion for me and for herself in doing that.
Mhm.
So can you think of times when you kind of beat yourself up and realize,
Yeah. Daily.
oh, Nicole, why do we do this to ourselves?
Well, it's so funny because like as moms and as business owners, as chiropractors, and we wear a lot of hats and we function in a lot of different roles. And Patty, I think that you're right. I think a lot of people, like especially our children and our patients, they don't see us as human beings. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And and I think part of that is what drives the all or nothing mindset. I know for myself, this is one of my um like downfalls, is that I have an all or a none mindset. It's like either I'm in or I'm out. And life doesn't really work like that. Life is so gray. It's not black and white. You know, you had mentioned about, sometimes life becoming a shit show. Well, if you're a business owner, I would say almost just about every day that you walk into your business, whether it's a chiropractic business or any other industry, it's problem solving. Like that's your job as a business owner is problem solving. And so that's something that I have to work on is that, in most cases, it's not an all or nothing scenario. There's a lot of grays and I'm looking at your background right now and I love your background and I see that palm tree. And when I look at the palm tree, I think about why palm trees are so resilient in tropical areas when a tropical area has a hurricane. Why are the palm trees still standing? Well, they're still standing because they're flexible. They're strong, but they're bendable, right?
Right.
And so that's what I strive to be. I want to be strong, but I also need to learn how to be a little bit more flexible in my day to day.
They go with the flow. And
Yes.
that's easy to say and not so easy to do. So what I wonder is, do men have it easier? Like, do men not stress like women? I mean, I don't want to be, using generalizations, but I kind of see
Mm.
that. I mean, I see that in my husband. He says that his job is he's a firefighter and a juggler. He puts out fires and he
Yeah.
juggles many different things. And I mean, we do too, but he doesn't complain nearly as much as I do. He does, he takes my hand and he brings me over to the couch and he says, "Patty, come sit down.
Mhm.
Let's look at the beauty in front of us. Let's look out the window and see the trees and it's like, and then it calms me down. But how come, is he typical of most men, do you think? Do men take it
Yeah,
in stride? Are they more like the palm tree and we're more like, I don't know, the oak or
the
something? I don't
oak, the old oak.
the old oak.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that men do not have, less responsibilities or less stress, or I don't think that they're juggling less things or putting out less fires. I just think that it's part of our makeup. It's the way that God created man and God created women. And that's why we're different and that's why we're unique. Men typically have a tendency to think logically and analytically and think things through and women are nurturing emotional beings. We're our whole my whole day, I'll speak for myself, but my whole day is driven by my emotions.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's really unfortunate, but it's driven by what I feel. And with men, it's typically driven by what they think.
Ah,
So
yeah, good
I don't
point.
think it's
Good
that
point.
they have less. I just think that they respond differently.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. In my
Yeah.
example, very true in my example. Come sit down, Patty.
Yeah.
You know, um,
Yeah. I remember, one of my, I'll never forget this life lesson, but when I you guys know me well enough by now. Patty, you definitely know me. I think our audience knows me that like I am a type A, I'm a go, go, go. I got to get things done. I have a list that I have to get through. Like I'm a driver. And one of my greatest life lessons was when Cole was really young. We had taken Cole and Lucas to Hawaii, and we did that long, long hike on oh, I forget what they call it. It's like that famous hike.
yeah,
It's the name of it is slipping my mind. It's like 11 miles into the secluded beach and 11 miles out, and
yeah.
the boys were really young. And so, like, if you give me a hike and I have to go 11 miles in and then I got to go 11 miles out, that's like a task for me. Like, I'm on it. I'm driven. I'm like, we have to walk at a certain mile an hour. Everybody needs to stay hydrated. We're taking breaks every mile and a half. Let's go. And we're walking along, and every 10 steps, Cole is stopping and literally smelling the flowers.
You plan for that.
No. And at first, that was like really upsetting for a person like my with my personality. It was I was like starting to twitch, you know. I was like, "Oh, we gotta go." And then I don't know, like this voice just came over me, and I just like heard in my spirit, Nicole, listen to the lesson here. Sometimes you need to just stop and smell the flowers. And and that's what Peter does for you, right? When you're
Yeah.
in that drive mode.
Yeah. Oh God, what a great story. And what a great lesson. And I catch myself. I'm not a type A driver, yet I can get lost in the mundane stuff and not
Hmm.
stop and smell the flowers myself. And now that I'm not in full-time practice, I'm doing that more.
Hmm.
Yesterday I went up to Life West and I walked around the building, and on one side of the building, there are all these rose bushes. Now, this is a big industrial building. They don't really have a campus, but this flower garden, and I stopped and I smelled all the roses. And I do that whenever I'm in a rose garden, and they all smell so different and so unique. And I can see why roses are like the flower of love because I just welled up in tears just
Hmm.
smelling it, going, oh my God, that is such an amazing aroma. It just brought me into the here and now. That's what Cole did for you. He just
Yeah.
brought you into the here and now. You were like, we're go- we're going there. It's like,
Yeah, I was so focused on
yeah.
the destination that I forgot to enjoy the walk.
Yeah, Mom, we're here. We're here right now.
Right.
And my daughter does that for me too. Mom, I need you here right now, looking me in the eye, having this conversation.
Yeah.
And now with cell phones and all, it's so easy for people to go, yeah, yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, yeah, sure, I'm listening.
Right.
And they're not, you know.
Right.
And I tell my husband, I need your full attention when I'm speaking. Put your phone down. Oh man.
Focus.
Yeah.
Focus. You know, one of the things you said earlier that I picked up on, Patty, too, which I thought was like a really valuable lesson, was when you said sometimes circumstances that can be stressful sometimes end up being our greatest blessings. I love that. Tony Robbins calls that a reframe, by
Yeah.
the way. So he calls that a reframe. So reframes, I would highly suggest that if for our audience, especially if you're opening a business or you have a business and you have to communicate with a lot of people, just Google search Tony Robbins reframes and it gives you a whole explanation of what it is. But basically, it's taking a circumstance and training your mind to innately start to look at that circumstance through a different lens, through a lens that's more empowering. And so, like a small example of a reframe in practice would be like, a person doesn't follow the doctor's recommendations. They don't convert into care in your practice or something. And we initially most people are going to initially see that as a failure. I failed the patient, I failed in communication, I failed in my, day one, whatever it is. And a reframe would be like, you know what? Thank you, Lord, for the protection. Because maybe by that patient not converting into care into my office, maybe that saved me from an injury. Maybe that saved me from a lawsuit. Maybe that saved me from a bad review or, whatever. So it's just looking at the same circumstance and put and assigning a different meaning to that circumstance so
Yeah.
that you have a different emotional feeling about the event.
Yeah. So that's interesting that you bring that up because I gave my daughter an example. So she was perseverating over the fact that she gave thousands of dollars to this company. And and how am I going to make that back? And how am I going to get them to give it back to me? And I guess I reframed it for her. And I said,
Hmm.
Katie, that money in your mind, you have the ability in your mind to
Mhm.
shift how you look at that. And that's really what you
Mhm.
just said, Nicole. It's like the reframe, the shifting it. I said, you can look at it as that person, maybe he had a child who needed surgery and they didn't have all the money or the insurance to be able to pay for it. And he's
Mhm.
using your money right now to pay for their child's surgery. I said, is it true? I don't know, but we
Mhm.
don't know what he's
Right.
using that money for, but we can in our mind make it okay by
Mhm.
creating a story, but because that's what we do anyway. That patient doesn't start care, we create a story. Oh, I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right. Well, how about maybe they went home and found out that their kid had cancer, and all of a sudden their life changed and they couldn't think about themselves anymore and they had to focus on their kid. I
Right.
said to Katie, or you're driving down 128 in Boston and it's bumper to bumper traffic, and there's this dude cutting in and out, in and out, in and out, and getting to the exit before you. What's your first reaction? What would your first reaction be, Nicole?
He's a bleep.
Yeah, yeah, he's a bleep and bleep and bleep.
Yeah.
But then if you shift that story and shift it to in the back
Mhm.
seat is his child who just was playing with a knife and cut the tip of their finger off, and they have to rush to get them to the hospital. It's the same action, the same scenario, but you get to say, "Oh, bless you, bless you, bless you." Marianne Williamson tells that story in one of her books. And she said she just blesses people when they do
Mhm.
stupid shit on the she lives near LA or something.
Right.
When they're driving, or no matter that patient that doesn't start care, or the money that you lost, or the house that
Mhm.
you bought that you don't need, or whatever it is, shift
Right.
the story. We can make up any story we want. And why would we make up a story that beats us up? Okay,
Right.
I'm speaking to me, not just to all of you listening out there. I don't think either one of us ever just speaks to, to proselytize to other people, right, Nicole? We have life experiences that are important to share for those people that may be struggling out there, maybe beating themselves up,
Yeah.
not being kind to themselves, either as a parent or a chiropractor or chiropractic assistant, or just a person who's trying to do their life and you know
Yeah.
exist,
Yeah.
make a
You,
difference.
you know, it's funny when you were telling me about Katie, there was a few times in my life that I made really bad business decisions where I lost money. I invested in something that was not what they told me it was going to be. And I remember Joe, my husband, um, would say, he would say, Nick, he go, stop stressing about it. He goes, you just paid for an education. What do you mean I paid for an education? He goes, did you learn something from it? I go, oh yeah, I certainly did. He goes, well, instead of paying for a college, paying towards college education, he's like, you just paid for life education. And that
Yeah.
was a reframe for me. That was so
Amen.
smart. I was like, you know what? You're right. He was like, you just paid 3 grand or 10 grand for an education.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. And then I was able to let it go. And it's so important in practice because I think as chiropractors, we have such a unique position in life because we have to really wear two very different hats, a hat of being a caretaker, chiropractor, and the hat of being a business owner, an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And Patty, you know this better than anybody because you and Peter had probably one of the largest practices that I've ever heard of. I don't know what the largest practice in the world has ever been, but you guys have had a very large practice. And I'm sure, uh, and once again, give us some feedback on this, but I'm sure one of the top things that contributed to your success in practice was yours and Peter's physiological tone or physiological energy of of your body, of your, you know, your state, your energetic state when you were in the practice. And I would go as far as to say that your practice is really a reflection of your physiological state. And we all see this happen. You know, we see it happen. Sometimes we're not aware of it or we're not conscious of it. But you know, when we go into the practice and we have a high vibrational frequency and we're in a state of love and we're in a state of peace and we're, some people call it being in the state of flow, right? You know, that's where like all the new patients call in, everybody shows up for their appointments, everybody's loving their care, no patients have no problems. And then sometimes something happens and our physiological state shifts to a lower vibrational frequency. And those are the days that you go in your office and for like no apparent, no logical reason, people are missing their appointments. Your three new patients for the day, they didn't even show up. They didn't even bother to call, you know. You know, a staff member gets angry or a staff member walks out, team member walks out, something like that, you know. And so like the your nervous system and your emotions drive your physiological state, and your physiological state really drive the success of your practice and the tone of your practice, the energy of the practice, you know, day to day. So the key, I think, to all of this is, you know, how can we, and reframes is one of the answers to it, but you know, how can we consciously make a shift in state? You know, when we recognize, and I used to, I've not used to, I have a mentor who's a chiropractor, awesome chiropractor. And he would say, the difference between an amateur and a professional is that the professional has the ability to make a conscious shift in state in any moment.
Hey, I like
And so
that.
yeah, and so sometimes when I was like was grouchy or in a bad mood or I just didn't want to go to the office or whatever it was, I would ask myself that question and I would say, Nick, are you an amateur today or are you going to be a professional? And that helped, like, you know, it helped like
Re-
reroute my mind
Yeah.
to, you know, how did I want to create my day?
Yeah.
Even in the
So,
midst of turmoil.
yeah. So you just, I mean, there was so much in what you just said. I wanted to respond to so many things, but I wanted to let you complete that. So sometimes we can't get out of our own head, and that's when it's really important that you have somebody in your close proximity. Maybe it's your staff member, it's a partner who's in the practice with you, but that
Yeah.
you slip and check, as BJ said, you slip and check. And if you're
Mhm.
slipping, that they check you and they
Yeah.
say, whoa, you know, uh, time out. you
Yeah.
know um and then you have whatever strategies you have to make that shift. And I think what you said is people out there have your strategies, whether
Mhm.
it's, I've seen where you have that elastic band on your wrist and you want to change your state at that moment. You just get that elastic band and you snap yourself into the here and now. Or you do a
Right.
Tony Robbins, where you have whatever your power thing is, woo woo, or just
Yeah.
bring your arms up and just go, okay, okay, I'm here, I'm present. or
Right.
it, or whatever it is for you, but it's a good, people need to have strategies for those moments. I look
Yeah.
at when I walk through the door, and I have a home office, so I walk through the door of my house right into the office. And that's a little more challenging than if you have time to drive to work or walk to work, where you have all that time to just kind of like, okay, get out of mommy state. And now I'm going to go into chiropractic mommy state.
Yeah.
And, and so I walk through the door and it's like immediately I'm on stage. Now it's not like I'm performing, but I have to clean up my act because as mommy, and I wish this wasn't true, I'm a little bit more lackadaisical and maybe not so much, you know, not always watching my P's and Q's, let's put it that way, where with patients, I'm a little bit more attentive to doing that, to not just saying
Mhm.
whatever is going to come out of my mouth. So would you
Right.
agree? I mean, as parents, we're a little looser and in the house and stuff. And maybe that shouldn't be true. But I would say my personality is the same in the office, that I come in with the consciousness of kindness, service, and yet I'm not a pushover, and that I have to deliver. These
Mhm.
people are paying me to perform, and I'm
Yeah.
going to perform. And that means I'm going to say the right words. I'm going to be congruent with my words. And I'm going to deliver the most amazing adjustment that I can in that moment. So that means I need to be present with that person. And we have an
Yeah.
open concept, and we have an agreement, Peter and I, that we don't talk to anybody
Mhm.
while we're adjusting. We may talk
Yeah.
to that person on the table.
Right.
Wow. Wow, I can feel like your sacrum's not moving in sync with your occiput, and so your cerebral spinal fluid flow is kind of chopped up, and let's get that in sync. You know,
Mhm.
I might say words like that, but
Right.
I'm not gonna, talk to somebody about the Red Sox and the Yankees and
Yeah.
and the game that
Yeah.
happened the night before. So yes, going into the practice for me is going on stage. And maybe I should practice that in my family life too.
Me too, Patty. Me too. But yeah, I have the same, the same rule as I adjust in open area as well for my whole career. I've adjusted in the open area and I have the same rule. And I also have, for the most part, I don't talk to patients about things that are outside of chiropractic.
Yeah.
I don't talk to them about, the sports or the weather or things like that. In my opinion, they have friends and they have family to talk about the sports and the weather with. I want to talk to them about how every adjustment, their body gets healthier. With every adjustment, their body's getting stronger. They're recovering their life. Their quality of life is good. That's what I want to talk to them about.
Absolutely. And we're people. We still I mean, I can't say that I only talk about chiropractic. I
I do.
bless you, Nicole, bless you. But I mean, our staff, they have our staff to talk about and talk
Uh,
to. They talk about the Bruins and the Red Sox and then the Celtics, all the four seasons in the Boston area. Let's not leave out the who's the last team? The Sox, the Celtics, the Bruins. Oh, and the
I don't know.
oh, the Patriots. The
The Patriots.
Patriots. You
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll
Well, I
get
told
real.
you that's that black and white thing again. I'm either
Yeah.
black or white. I'm either
Yeah.
chiropractor or
No, I'm gray. I'm gray. and and it's all we always bring it back to, life, and life expresses intelligence, and it's inside out, and always find a way to kind of get that in there, and yeah, because it's important to get real, right? We are getting
Yes.
real with our patients, with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, girlfriend, guess what? We're like rounding up to our 30-minute mark already.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it right on the mark today, huh?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, and we made a lot of really good points. So, how do we wrap that up?
I think we just say, all right, you guys, we're gonna wrap up for today.
And leave you with, get real with yourself. Get real with yourself and recognize that, you're not perfect. You may think you are, but I have learned that I thought I was, and I was, but to be compassionate with ourselves, to have strategies for when we go off the rails, and have strategies, whether it's in our home life, in our office life, with our staff, with our patients, practice members, and to go out there and change the world
Amen.
for the
Amen.
better, by our
Yes.
example.
Yes. Thank God for chiropractic because that's what it does.
Amen.
All all right, you guys, I guess Dr. Patty and I are going to sign off for this week, and we will see you in the next episode in just a couple weeks.
Bye, everybody.